Today, we are making the low-carb, keto-friendly cannoli pie. So if you're wondering what I mean about this weight, you clearly don't follow me on Instagram because I've been teasing this thing the past 2 or 3 weeks, and so many people have DM'd me about this thing, are excited about this thing. Even in real life, people are asking me, when is the cannoli pie recipe coming out? It's coming out right now. We are doing that thing today. So I'm not exactly sure if cannoli pies are a thing. I've personally never seen a cannoli pie. I'm not saying that I invented them because I'm sure cannoli pies do exist. But when you think about it, they should be a thing because basically a cannoli is a pie. It's just a small pie burrito. That's all that it is. So my question is, why aren't cannoli pies more of a thing? Because cannolis are delicious, pies are delicious, cannoli pie, really delicious. Anyways, this cannoli pie is not your average cannoli pie. Not that there are that many, but every slice only has about 9 net carbs, which is just crazy when you're talking about a slice of pie. That is including the crust. If you go crustless, say you're really watching your carbs, every slice will only be about 6 net carbs for your crustless cannoli pie. So that being said, let's jump into this one. Let's make this pie, guys. All right, so the first thing we're doing is getting out our food scale and a really large bowl, and then we're gonna take out some ricotta cheese. You have to say it like a real Italian, guys. At least I do, otherwise my wife's gonna yell at me because if I say ricotta, I get yelled at. So we are gonna be adding some ricotta cheese to this bowl, and make sure you're checking the nutritional labels on your ricotta cheese because all of them have different carb counts. I was able to find one that only had 2 net carbs per serving, but when I was in the grocery store, I saw some that had 6 carbs per serving, so just keep that in mind when you're selecting your ricotta cheese. So with that being said, we're adding 2 cups or around 480 grams of that cheese to our bowl for today's recipe. And then the next thing we're gonna add is gonna be some softened cream cheese. We're actually gonna be adding an entire brick or 8 ounces of that cream cheese to our bowl. And once we've got all the cream cheese added in, we're gonna add a half a tablespoon of some vanilla extract, as well as some unflavored gelatin. Usually you can find this in your grocery store's baking aisle, but I'll also leave a link to grab some in the video description below. So now we're gonna add some erythritol to the recipe to sweeten things up without adding any additional carbs or calories. And for today's recipe, I'm gonna be adding some Swerve Confectioners erythritol. You guys know I love Swerve's products. Their Confectioners erythritol is like the best, and I highly recommend picking some up. Anyways, for today's recipe, we're gonna be adding 3/4 of a cup or about 100 grams of that stuff to our bowl. And then at this point, we are all set to mix everything together. So you wanna get out a hand mixer and start combining those ingredients until you have a smooth and thick and creamy consistency going on in that bowl. Once everything does combine nicely, you want to get out some sugar-free chocolate chips. My personal favorite are the Lily's sugar-free chocolate chips. It's what I'm using today. And for today's recipe, we're going to be adding a heaping half cup or around 112 grams of those chips to the bowl. And that'll do it for all of the cannoli filling ingredients. So we're just going to mix those quickly with a spatula until the chocolate chips are totally incorporated with all of the other ingredients. And then once the chocolate chips have combined nicely, we're just gonna pop that bowl into our refrigerator and start working on our pie crust. All right, so now for the crust, we're gonna preheat our oven to 325 degrees. We're gonna get our food scale back out and a medium-sized bowl, and then we're gonna get out some almond flour. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Bob's Red Mill Superfine almond flour. It's what I recommend using for the recipe, but the big thing is just make sure you don't use almond meal. And I'll clear up this question right now. No, you cannot substitute coconut flour for the almond flour. With that being said, we are gonna add a cup and a half of that superfine almond flour to our bowl. And once we've added all that almond flour to the bowl, we're gonna sweeten our crust up again, once again using some erythritol. This time we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of granulated erythritol to our bowl. And then finally, the last thing we're doing is just adding a little bit of salt. At this point, we're gonna take out a wire whisk and just combine all of those ingredients together. Once everything's combined in the bowl, the last thing we're adding is a 1/4 cup of some melted butter. And then we're just gonna use a spatula to mix those ingredients together until a crumbly consistency starts to take shape in the bowl. Once it does, we are gonna spray a pie plate with some non-stick baking spray, and then we're gonna start pressing the dough out into the shape of the plate. This might take a couple of minutes, so just be patient while you're doing it. And a big pro tip is working the dough out from the middle of the pie crust. That way you end up with enough dough to coat the sides of the pie plate and get a nice crust all the way around the sides of the pie plate itself. So once your pie crust is looking great in that plate, yes, that rhymed, you're gonna toss that into the oven for just about 10 to 12 minutes until it starts to turn golden brown. And then once the pie crust does turn golden brown, you wanna remove it from the oven, and then you wanna let the pie crust cool completely in the plate itself. Once the pie crust cools completely, that's when you wanna get the cannoli filling out of the refrigerator and start adding it to the crust. And then once you've added that cannoli filling to the pie and evenly spread it out, you wanna transfer the whole pie this time to to the refrigerator for just about 2 hours to let it set completely. Once the pie does set completely, check this out, guys. How delicious does this cannoli pie look? That's today's cannoli pie recipe. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope you make it for your friends and your family if you're in the US and you're celebrating Thanksgiving in a few days. I hope they enjoy it. If you're not in the US, I still hope you make it for your friends and family, and I hope they enjoy it for the holidays that are coming up, or just for whatever, any kind of a party. This pie, it's gonna be a hit, guys. With that being said, if you want the full written out recipe with the metric measurements of the macros, you can find that stuff in the video description below. Also down there are links to all the products that I used to make the pie today. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, that is in the video description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next recipe. Hopefully there's gonna be one more before Thanksgiving. I'm gonna really try my hardest, but if not, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in the next one.